A harsh measure indeed. Hope that our efforts to understand his position and that of the forum will perhaps lead to a reconciliation. We'll mend this rift one day. I'm certain of it. What about you, Graha? Have you been to visit your family? Or do they not live here in the city? Well, my situation is somewhat complicated. I was raised in Charlian, yes, but I was born rather further away. The southwest reaches of Hills of Bard. In fact, for generations, my people have dwelt in Corvus, coastal region opposite the island of Thavnir. The Elegans founded a city in the fertile land by ship, frightened the subjugated tribes of the Makote to serve as laborers. Of course, the massive earthquakes of the fourth calamity brought an end to the Empire's reign. And when the fifth calamity froze the seas solid, many of the tribes still looking in Corvus braved the journey back to Orzia. My ancestors, however, chose to remain that they might prevent the remnants of Allegan technology from being misused. Is in Corvus under Gallian rule? For the past 50 years, yes, some semblance of local culture remains, as is the case of most imperial provinces, but Garwald named the region Locus Aminius. When I was a boy, nearby a town came under the jurisdiction of the illustrious imperial family, the nobles of House Darnus. House Darnus demonstrated a singular interest in Allegan civilization, and so my tribe was forced to consider a plan of action. For some time already, voices have been raised in favor of abandoning our ancient customs. After all, the Alleganai no longer pass to our eldest children as reliably as it once had. Grave discovery eventually tipped the scales, and the decision was made to bury our ties to the knowledge and traditions of Allag. As the last child born with Alleganai, I was given over to the custody of the friends and the students of Baldesion, who had me registered as a Charlian citizen. I've never considered. Forgive me. It was an unkind question. Even Thencred was taken in by the Archon Louisois. Sorry, not Louisois. Was he not? Stories of adopted wives and rescued orphans are more common among Charlians than you might think. Yet, regardless of our origins, we are all provided with an equal opportunity to learn. And with sufficient perspirity, I don't fucking know, dude. We outsiders can learn the even vaunted title of Archon. This is exactly why I have such a love for this country, and why I wish for it to remain a nation of which its citizens can be proud. You're here. Another good reason to get to the bottom of this forum's stubbornness, aside from the trifling matter of our impending doom. Excuse us while I make some headway into the books. More companies should be arriving any moment now. Hopefully with voice acting. Probably not, though. Whose backstory we gonna get this time? We return with our selections. Although I must say, the pickings were quite slim indeed. Mrs. Krill has already flicked through every history book devoted to disasters, and more than a few which barely made mention of them. As such, we'll be looking to research papers on the umbral calamities, as well as articles written by prominent forum members. Perhaps their knowledge of the final days comes from an unexpected source. Speaking of which, I asked you a few questions related to the final days. I'm the only one who didn't witness the events of Amuro firsthand, and fear I may be overlooking critical details. Thanks. Now, where to begin? First things first, what kind of phenomena did the ancients encounter as the final days drew nigh? a complete destabilization of creation magics. That's true. Shit was just fucking popping up. Yes, the unfolding catastrophe wrought havoc on all manner of life. The chaos extended to the ancients themselves, causing the powers of creation to spiral out of control. Fear and despair manifested in terrible, tangible fashion. Meteors raining from the sky, fire erupting from the ground, indescribable abominations prowling the streets. That more or less aligns with my understanding. Only the arts of creation had survived until the present day. We might have had something substantial to analyze. To the best of our knowledge, however, those techniques were not preserved or passed on. Stola surmises that the closest known magics is that the summoning rituals promulgated by the Asians. What was the aught else? Was there aught else of note which heralded the approach of the final days? The entire star was engulfed by disaster at once. Which was more of a gradual spread. The Amyrodians spoke of a keening sound that rose from the land itself just before a region was visited by a catastrophe. We never did hear this sound ourselves, of course, thrust as we were into the midst of the madness. So the ground was crying out, you say? To be considered the harbinger of doom, it must have been quite distinctive and probably quite loud. I'll have to speak in one of the Numidian's mammoths. What the fuck does that mean? And ask after any books which make mention of such sound. Last but not least, how would you describe how the ancients sought to quell this unprecedented calamity? What definite action did they take? Yeah, they summoned Zodiac. Yes, with Elidibus serving as his heart. So many gave themselves in sacrifice to bring him into being. Do not know how Zodiac brought salvation to the star, only that his godlike will with the laws of nature set all right. Then once the balance was readdressed, the ancients offered up a further sacrifice to heal the ravages of the final days. Life sprouted anew, and it was these fledgling souls that they intended to render onto Zodiac a trade that would have allowed them to resurrect the shades, with the loved ones absorbed by the primal. Or might have, had Venet and her followers not manifested their opposition in the form of Hylan. Thank you, both of you, for the detailed review. I feel much more confident about my understanding of the events. Well, freshly in mind, this makes me wonder what the Telephori truly mean when they speak of bringing back the final days. We've seen what they're doing with the towers of theirs. It's forcing people to summon primals, a kind of catalyst. Are they attempting to mirror the conditions caused by unstable creation magics? Or are they simply using the final days as a figure of speech? A convenient metaphor for the scale of destruction they plan to unleash. Well, this is just pointless conjecture at this stage. Let's return to our attention to the forum, shall we? We shall keep an eye out for Y'shtola. It is time to begin studying these research papers. Hopefully this time with voice acting. Probably not, though. We don't have enough funding for that, I don't think. We got funding for it? Oh, my. I'm the last, am I? Well, my extended search on the Archon stacks produced one or two possibly useful books, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. If I recall, Oriana J learned of the source's reflections from the Gurren oracles for its potential to cause panic and confusion. That tome was deemed apocrypha and sealed away in the Great Google Library. It is even less likely the knowledge of the unsundered world, not to mention the horrors of the final days, was left sitting on the shelf for any curious scholar to find. It stands to reason that my colleagues, be they archons or counselors, should perforce be largely ignorant of the subject. Yet when you confronted Master Verschelnolt with knowledge of the Telephori and their machinations, he scoffed at the suggestion that they posed a threat. He seemed adamant the Forum would know that the final days were truly upon us, which only supports the conclusion that which privileged wisdom is guiding the Forum's behavior and is being kept secret from the rest of the nation. Not that I mean to excuse myself from the reading duty. Whether they contain mention of the final days or no, these books could yet hold something of value. They weren't thinking of leaving, were you? You weren't thinking of leaving, were you? There's plenty of work for everyone. Hey, look, dude, no fucking 10-year backstory for your Stoltz part down. They cooked that shit. Give everybody else a fucking like essay worth of shit for nothing. You labor with what feels like ages as you stole his research assistant. My tongue is getting numb from reading all this, dude. Oh dear, you look exhausted. What about your studies? Were you able to find any book of the subjects I mentioned? The day was well spent. Should you wish to read them again, a memo at the reference desk will point you in the right direction. At the moment, though, I suggest you take a well-deserved rest. You might be occupied with our research for quite some time. A seat at the last stand. Ready for a tea break? I know I am. I'll say my neck and shoulders are going to clarify if I don't stretch my legs. Oh, it's calcify, sorry. And walk around a bit. Your last stand on the harbor, don't you? Come meet me near the outside of the tables. I'll treat you to their coffee. It's quite good. We will go and TP there. Dum dum ba ba ba. As busy as ever, I see. A very Chilean that no other gourmet cafe has sprung up to compete for customers. Actually, this crowd gives me an idea. Before we place an order, why don't we ask a few questions and gauge the mood of the city? I'm interested to hear what the average citizen has to say about the Telephori. Might even learn something new. Worth a try, don't you think? Sure. Oh. It's more fetch, or not fetch quest, escort quest. What is it? Can a man enjoy a moment of private respite? If you're looking to share a table, then I respectfully request that you look somewhere else. You misunderstood, sir. We're simply wondering if you knew of the Telephori. These enemies of peace have promised an end to all we hold dear. And wait, that house leveler girl, aren't you? Ah, this man with you is obviously a foreigner. You were disowned for helping outsiders indulge their barbaric whims. You are giving truth to that rumor. I'll, I'll thank you to leave me be. I have naught to say to the likes of you. Well, I must apologize. It was foolish of me to expect an ounce of civility from one so enlightened. Oh. Yes, I don't believe I've had the pleasure. Excuse the interruption. We were hoping you might share your thoughts on the Telephori and their unconscionable plans. My goodness, isn't the young Miss Lavalier? My apologies, but I work in the offices of the Forum. And if word reached Master Fortunault that was helping you, let's see, thought I bothered you. Oh, dude, it's the fucking NPC, Dickon. What's up, Dickon? Welcome, sir. What can I offer you today? Is that Mr. Alice I see? My word. How long has it been? Far too long. Meet Dickon, the owner of the Last Stand. I used to frequent his cafe on occasion, between lessons at the studio. Seems like an age ago now. We're hearing that you and Master Alphino had set sail for Orzia. You never came back. I think there's been gossip about your father disowning the pair of you. Everything all right at home? Nope, I don't have a home anymore. No home. It's complicated, and I had expected complete strangers to be so familiar with our situation quite so quickly. Everyone has an opinion, it seems. Well, it is House Leveler. No matter how discreet Master Fortunault may have been, news of your family's doing never stays secret for long. Things being what they are, what brings you back to the city now of all times? We have questions, and only Charlene has the answers. Tell me, Master Dickon, have you heard anything about the apocalypse called the Final Days? Well, like the end of the world? Nothing like that. That's what you're here to find? Information on this apocalypse? Yes, whatever we can learn. Fortunately, your patrons appear to be unwilling to speak to me. Wish there was more I could do to help. Maybe there is. You're a visitor to Chelan, aren't you? Yep. Few know your face. Be able to pass you off as a server, none the wiser. You just finished preparing a few orders. Strike up some friendly conversation while you are settling down the food. You might get the answers you're looking for. Not a bad idea. Hate to ask, but what do you think? I think it's going to be useless. This is like more fetch quest shit. That's the spirit. Pay attention now, and I'll explain where each one of these dishes needs to go. The tea set for the chatty group sitting by the water's edge. The omelet is for one of our regulars, the Highlander of the name Gisela, sitting outside the table with a friend of hers. Behind them, you should see a Makote gentleman. He ordered the oven-baked lobster. Got all that? You're not sure? Just ask and I'll explain again. Good luck. Okay. Alright, here's your tea. Oh, my tea set. Lovely, thank you. The Telefa who? Sorry, I'd never heard of them, or their final days. My friends and I are somewhat uninformed when it comes to current events. If you want to hear about ritual arcane practices of the 6th astral era, common or esoteric, I'd be happy to talk your ear off. Here's your omelet. Ah, finally. 2468. Let's dig in. No time to waste. What? The Telephori? Oh yes, I remember seeing the name in the latest Gazette. That and some grand claim about the end of days. Same old senseless warmongering. Only these fools grow tired of spilling each other's blood. Best stay out of it, I say. The Vor made the right choice, and I fully support our decision to remain neutral. Here's your lobster. Bang. At last, the heaven-baked lobster is mine. I have no idea how long I've scrimped and saved and suffered to afford this heavenly dish. All days. It's the first I've heard of it. Although, that would explain why my friend has been rushed off his feet, and it must be a busier time to be a gleaner. That was a gleaner. You know what a gleaner is? The collectors of a sort. Travel the world procuring things that we haven't got here in Charlayan. Priceless books, unusual live specimens, and so forth. It's a name for those folks who trail after the reapers in the fields, picking up every grain which is missed. By all accounts, gleaning is the most meticulous and demanding profession. Those Telephori make good on their audacious threats. They may be uncatalogued rarities. Then many uncatalogued rarities will be lost forever. Why else would the gleaners be buzzing about in such a frenzy? Watch the harbor, and you'll see what I mean. Carting loads in from the docks all day. I've never been this hectic before. It's never been this hectic before. Not like this. Any trouble with the customers? Were you able to get anyone talking? My tongue is numb. Yikes. Second. Interesting. They seem unaware of the final days. Aside from whatever vague news the gazettes are printing. Even Diggin had nothing to offer. He's the best source of gossip in the city. The forum does have secret knowledge. They've done an impressive job of ensuring no one whispers in the wrong ear. God. In any case, thank you for playing the part so well. Here, a cup of coffee, I promised. This has so much more filler at the start than Shadowbringers did, and I kind of don't like that. Let's enjoy our drink somewhere else, shall we? Maybe behind the peristyle, away from the gossips and their wagging tongues. And less voice acting, it seems. So automatically, there's just the start of this already. Where's my Shadowbringers, dude? Yes, that should do nicely. Out of the wind, out of sight. Out of funding for voice acting.
When our father disowned us, I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Fuck. 1 second. Okay, sick.
It wasn't until much later that his words began to sink in, that I began to feel the weight of what it meant.
Yes.
Do you remember when the decision was made to come to Charlayan? Graham said that the Forum was determined to keep us in the dark, and that Father's venomous performance was part of that strategy, to keep us at arm's length. Perhaps it was. Father argued with Grandfather on many occasions, but never with such dismissive contempt. And when he demanded what justifies the sacrifices we make in war, I honestly didn't know what to say. Neither did Alpha know, I know, but Never for one moment did I believe we had made the wrong choice. So all I could do was fume silently. It was only afterwards that I realized how childish I had been, how being stubborn and self-righteous must run in the family. If I could have just mustered a civil response, then things might have turned out differently.
There's the Gleaners.
They must be ferrying goods to Labyrinthos. A vast complex beneath the island. Sharlayan is famous for archiving knowledge from around the world. Well, that knowledge is not preserved exclusively in dusty tomes and desiccated samples. Our living library, comprised of all manner of flora and fauna, is housed and studied within that underground facility. Still, that did seem to be an unusually large shipment. When I lived here, it was rare to even see such cargo transported by boat. Wait, didn't you hear something in the last stand about the Gleaners coming and going more than usual?
I told you. I knew
I
it.
think they're the ones we saw manning those boats. And Gleaners answer to the Forum. If the appearance of the Telophoroi prompted this sudden burst of activity, then Labyrinthos may hold a clue as to what the Forum is planning.
Time to hijack a boat. Do that or interrogate a Gleaner. Yo, 81? Yeah. The Labyrinthian Descent. Should tell the others what I've learned about the Gleaners. Going ahead to no Munamacon, and I'll join you in a minute. Master Dickin wants his cup back. Master Dickin. Welcome back. Been for a walk? Did your head, have you? That's exactly. Not exactly. We had some impromptu investigating and turned up information on the Gleaners. It makes sense. The Gleaners take the requests directly from the institutions and bureaucrats. But as you say, they ultimately answer to the Forum. A sudden and significant increase in the Gleaner traffic and the cargo, it certainly gives the impression of an overarching plan to be put in motion. Let's see what theory we can build from the facts. Visual observed earlier in Namakon's archives appeared to contain no information concerning the final days. Coupled with what Zoe and Alice learned at the last stand, can be reasonably sure that most Sharlayans know nothing of the particular period